Warning: the following program is solely intended for a mature audience. Any of the idiotic opinions and views expressed on this show are solely opinions of Dark Fringe Radio and not of its advertisers, which is completely pointless because this poorly produced, dumbass podcast has no advertisers.
I'm sorry, son. But we do have an advertiser now, AmpSmart. So, yeah. Sorry. Go back to your thing.
Furthermore, any rebroadcast or redistribution of Dark Fringe Radio podcast without the permission is strictly prohibited. If you do, we will find you. Then we will send 3 black-eyed children to your home or office to collect your soul. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
Coming to you live from the Mistopheles Studios, it's Dark Fringe Radio.
And welcome to Dark Fringe Radio. I am your host, Will Martinez. Thanks for joining on another episode of Dark Fringe Radio. And I can't thank you enough for the Dark Fringe Army to join us again this week for another brand new spanking freaking episode that I'm so excited about. But of course, I can't do any of this without my friend and my best friend in the entire world, and my co-host, of course, Jay Glossy. Jay, what's up?
What is going on, Dark?
Uh-oh.
Oh, we are having some technical difficulties. It is going to be one of those evenings.
Uh-oh, it's all good, brother. It's all good.
There we go.
There we go. You sound
What's up, Dark Fingers? That's what I was trying to say before my mic shut off on me.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Listen, thanks for you coming on the video. We're doing a nice video feed tonight for everybody, and it's something new that we're going to be doing here and more often for you guys. So
It's a whole new world.
It's a whole new world, man, and we hope that you guys enjoy it. So, again, thanks for staying loyal to us and listening to all our podcasts and spreading the word. That's the most important thing for us here at Dark Fringe Radio, because if not, we don't go anywhere. So we do appreciate it very, very, very much. So, again, just to let everybody know how to listen to the podcast, Jay, do you want to enlighten people here how to tell them and how we listen to this podcast here, Jay?
It's pretty easy. However you consume podcasts, whether it's on Stitcher, Google Play, Google Play, iTunes. If you can get a podcast, you pull up Dark Fringe Radio. You can find us there, or you can go directly to our website, which is what again, Will?
Our website is darkfringeradio.wordpress.com, so make sure you guys go there. It has all the links there for you guys to listen to. We have Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, everything you can possibly imagine where you can get podcasts from. You can find our podcast. Just look up Dark Fringe Radio. But when you do that, please give us a 5-star rating and give us a comment, a favorable comment, hopefully. Not like you guys suck ass or something like that. But yeah, please do that for us.
Do that too. It's fine.
Yeah, well, of course. But listen, we do appreciate you guys doing that. And of course, follow us on social media. You can do that at darkfringeradio.wordpress. You can follow us on social media on Instagram, iTunes, and Facebook. Follow us there and just follow Dark Fringe Radio. You can see all our postings, everything that we do on a daily basis. So make sure you go ahead and check that out. So, Jay, I just wanted to get into the intro here, and that was pretty much it. But I wanted to talk to everybody about a couple things that we're doing here. I know you have a project, pet project you're doing here on the side as well. Can you let everybody know about that, please?
So what I'm doing is I'm developing a YouTube show for children. It's what I work with all day, every day, and I have been for almost 19 years. I have a special knack for entertaining children, so I've wanted to incorporate all my knowledge of how children can be entertained and how they can be educated at the same time, and mix into a fun show and put it out there in a way that is the easily consumed. It's easier to get something on YouTube these days for these kids than it was for us to get on cable. So I want it to be something that's going to get them up, get them motivated, educate them, and entertain them all at the same time, and not drive the parents too crazy. That's called Imagine Play with Coach Jay.
Yeah, guys, go check that out. It's something great for your kids to listen to. We're trying to diversify ourselves here at Dark Fringe Radio. Jay's doing this as his passion project on the side, and I'm here to support it 100%. what we're going to do eventually is have a podcast network where we're going to have a plethora of different shows all put together. That way, you could go to one place and listen to basically anything you want to listen to. It doesn't have to be all about conspiracy theories or paranormal. What we're planning to do is have just a little bit about everything for you guys to listen to. So that's the future for us at Dark Fringe Radio. So look forward to it. So something to check out here in the future. Again, I wanted to get into the next segment, Jay. And, of course, you know what that is, right, Jay?
I'm very cautious about emailing.
That's the mailbag, mofo.
That's right, man. And I just wanted to let everybody know how you can submit to the mailbag. It's very simple. All you got to do is go to Dark Fringe Radio, and you can either go to our website or just send us an email straight to us at thedarkfringe@gmail.com. So you can do one of two things. Go to our website and shoot us an email there, or just shoot us an email straight from your email source, thedarkfringe@gmail.com, and send us any kind of mailbag question or anything like that, or suggestion for the show, or if you want to be a guest, you have an interesting story, please let us know. So anyways, just wanted to remind everybody our second anniversary show is coming up here, probably within the next couple weeks. Me and Jay have been doing this. It's 2 years, Jay.
Crazy.
2 fucking years, man. Can you believe that?
Crazy. All the shit that has happened in 2 years and how much we've grown. As you consume these podcasts, sometimes go back and listen to some of those older shows. You'll really hear an uptick in the quality. You'll hear the naturalness of the banter, but you'll certainly hear how we've improved. It's been a hell of a 2 years.
Yeah, no, it certainly has. And, listen, I thank you very much for, joining me and going through this whole process with me. I couldn't do it without you, and I appreciate it. And so we're on our second year anniversary. So what we're doing is we want to kind of share your sentiments about the podcast or any kind of stories that you have regarding the paranormal, conspiracy theories, anything like that. I mean, anything weird and strange and unusual. That's what we do here at Dark Fringe Radio. We are the forefront and the superstars when it comes to this kind of stuff, and we're going to continue to bring that information to you constantly, but we also want to hear what you have to bring to the table as well. So what Jay and I have developed is a hotline for Dark Fringe Radio, and we've been posting that here for the last couple days. It's actually been quite interesting, where we've set up this hotline where you can actually call in and leave your sentiments about the podcast, how you feel about our second anniversary show coming up, any strange or unusual circumstances that you've come into play in the last, whatever years or whatever. Anything that you've basically have experienced, we want to hear it. Anything strange or unusual, anything like that. So what we're going to do is post all that information on our Facebook and all our social media. Please call into the number. Leave us a voicemail. Just give us something. We'd love to hear your voice. And what we're going to do, what we plan to do, is actually play the audio on one of our, actually on the anniversary show. So the way you can do that is by calling us at 561-600-8859. Again, the phone number is 561-600-8859. That is the Dark Fringe Radio hotline. So just make sure you go ahead and do that for us. We would certainly appreciate it. So anything else for the intro, Jay?
Nope. That's it. That's a lot. Call us maybe.
Yeah, call us maybe, hopefully. So this week we have a couple interesting emails, Jay, and we're going to get into that right here, right now. First one comes from a Jack Hopper from Fort Wayne, Indiana. And
Jack Hopper.
Jack Hopper. And
Jack Hopper. It sounds like a nasty grasshopper from like one of the Disney movies. Like,
yeah, right.
Here comes Jack Hopper, kids.
Well, Jack Hopper from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Subject is Jeffrey Epstein. Hello, Will and Jay. I'm not sure if you guys saw any of the news that's been happening in the last few weeks regarding Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, starting with him being arrested in New York for child trafficking charges. And also, as of last night, it looks like Mr. Epstein
strangely tried to kill himself.
Well, I don't know, Jay. They said they found marks around his neck, and they said they can't rule out of an assault either. So they said they actually questioned a few people regarding that. So it's shocker, right? Exactly. So what do you think, Jay? I mean, this guy has connections politically with some high-powered elite members. Obviously, he has records of people being at, his Lolita Island, where a lot of that shit happened, and the Lolita Express, which was the private jet that would take individuals from said place to the island. So, you're starting to see all this stuff unravel. You find Epstein semi-unconscious in his cell. And, I mean, what do you think? Do you think he's going to make it to actual testimony or anything like that, Jay?
I don't know, man. I wouldn't put my money on it. I wouldn't put my money on it. You're right. He has a lot of connections. He knows a lot of people, but that also means that he knows things about those people that they don't want him to divulge to the public. So, he's in a bad spot, man. He's in a bad spot. I do not envy him one bit.
No, I think you're right, Jay. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I don't know if this guy's going to make it to any type of court trial or anything, but he obviously has some type of connection with some very high-powered individuals, because you're starting to see a lot of this stuff unravel little by little. And I'm not sure if you heard this or not, Jay, but as of last night, too, there was a Democratic representative down here in South Florida who urged the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office to do a outside investigation as to how they were treating him while he was in house arrest. I'll let you guys do your own research on the house arrest that he was on. Basically, he was able to come and go as he pleases, Jay, and there was no, the records were fucking shoddy. And ever since then, this lady has come out and said that she supposedly has received death threats. And,
I'm sure.
And it's been saying like, oh, don't push them, this matter any further. Blah blah blah. Text messages, threatening her life. So now she's coming out and telling everybody, what's been happening. But I mean, this seems to be going much deeper than just some local pedophile guy that is up the street, touching kids. This seems to be a lot more than just that.
It does seem to happen a lot in the wealthier, more eclectic circles. I don't get the whole pedophilia thing. I don't understand it. It just that needs to stop. Like, there's just, I mean, come on, man. What the hell's wrong with people? I
don't know. I mean, at the same time, we are dealing with these people who are very wealthy, very powerful, so they can kind of get away with it. I mean, for what Jeffrey Epstein did, and for the type of punishment that he got the last time, I mean, he was basically able to go to work, do whatever he wanted to do. He just basically had a police escort everywhere he went.
Yeah, it sounds rough.
So yeah, it didn't sound too bad. You know what I mean? Looks like he wasn't hitting hard times.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds in the future. We're going to have to just keep following this story very, very closely. So, and which we'll continue to do as long as you follow us on our social media. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we're constantly dropping the latest as to what's happening on all the time. So, Jay, so that brings an end to that one, and I wanted to thank Jack Hopper for that one. And
Jack Hopper.
Yes, thank you, Jack. And the next one comes from Terry Simmons from Palm Harbor, Florida, not far from us. We're in the same state. And this one, the subject is Storm Area 51.
Yes.
Oh, Jay. So,
dude.
Yeah.
Bro. Dude.
What
the fuck?
I know. So Terry writes, "Hey guys, wanted to know if either of you would be attending the Storm Area 51 event in September." Terry, that's a hard no from my end. Jay, how about you? Are you attending?
Yeah. No. I prefer my head attached to my neck. That's where it goes. That's where it belongs. It's little cozy home. I don't want some Marine to slice it off with bullets. That's not gonna be cool.
So you're telling me
silly.
you don't want to get fucked up by the military? Is that what you're saying at the end of the day?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a military base. It's a big building. It's a big white building with guns and probably lasers. And it's a military installation. I mean, I don't care how many of us are out there with our AR-15s. That's not gonna take but one tank, and that's about it.
Once they
and this the Naturo run that they talk about doing, don't think that's gonna work out very well either.
Bro, let me tell you, once you start running towards the fucking base, they're gonna fuck you up very fast. And I'm not telling you about bullets. They might even use some type of like sonic weapon on your ass, where you just fucking crumble to the floor. I'm telling you, don't do it. This is all some fucking Facebook post that some kid made, and it's ridiculous.
It's silly, dude. It's silly. Seriously, people. It's a military base in the middle
of the fucking desert.
Nowhere.
Yeah, where are you
what are
going?
you hoping to gain?
Yeah, where are you going?
Let's just play in Little Dreamland and pretend that there is stuff at Area 51. Let's think that our government isn't so smart that they're thinking, hey, everybody knows about Area 51 now. We're gonna move some stuff, and they're not gonna find anything but some empty crates and possibly the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, I think you're wishing a little bit too much there, Jay. A little Indiana Jones on there.
But
listen,
the point still stands. Too many people know about Area 51 before this whole thing started. I don't think the military should just leave their shit there. So,
no.
Even if you do get into the base, you're not gonna find anything. That's one, and then two, it's a base. There are planes and tanks and very, very big men with very big guns.
That was the conversation I was having with someone earlier. I was like, they were asking about it because they know that I'm into conspiracy theories, right? They know that I'm into everything like that. So they asked me opinions about all this shit that comes out. So, a coworker comes up to me and says, hey, what do you think about this Storm Area 51 thing? And I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, there's not going to be anything there. Even if they storm the place by happenstance, let's just say they get lucky. And the military says, you know what? We're not going to do anything. We're going to let these people come in and do what they have to do. Well, raid the whole fucking place. We're not going to even have workers there. This whole fucking place is going to be empty. That's what's going to happen. There's not going to be anything there. Listen, if you want to raid somewhere that has the secrets, raid the fucking Vatican. That's where the secrets are, people. You want to find secrets about the world, the real shit? The Vatican. Let me tell you, the Vatican has a fucking underground bunker with just fucking treasure troves of just information from the past.
Shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's not anything there. There's not anything. Although I do like what Bud Light has done. Did you hear what Bud Light did?
That's so smart, dude. I mean, it's so smart.
Anybody who brings out an alien or any alien that comes out gets free Bud Light for life. I'm willing to denounce my own parents and say I came from Bloop Bloop Land.
Bloop Bloop Land. Listen, it's a great marketing ploy on the part of Bud. I can't give it enough. Listen, they've been great at marketing for a long time. People don't remember. I mean, do you remember when they had that fucking time when that everybody was doing that one commercial where everybody was calling each other? They're like, "What's that?" The whole shit. That was Bud Light. That was Bud. They fucking came up with that. That was one of the first things that commercials where people were like, "Oh shit, did you see that commercial?" And then they would do a series of these same commercials but just different, and it was great. I mean, they were always good at marketing. So listen, I give it to them. Listen, they're smart.
the Clydesdales and the Budweiser. I mean,
exactly.
So many great marketing. They are one of the most powerful and successful marketing firms ever, and I drink Bud Light. I prefer it, so I'm glad that they're going to be giving it out to the aliens.
Well, we'll see.
We'll have something in common.
Well, let's see. Let's see how that all works. Let's see if they bring anything back from Area 51, Jay. But I can tell you, and I can tell the listener who wrote in that email that neither Jay or myself will be at the Storm Area 51 event. So I wanted to thank both those individuals for sending in their mailbag questions for this week. And listen, Jay, this week we have a very special interview with Mr. James Pyles. And James Pyles is an author, and he wrote a short story called The Recall. And something I wanted to kind of mention to you, Jay, I'm not sure if you knew this or not, but this all started with a meme that I posted.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, and it's crazy that a person was able to come up with a whole story based off a meme that we posted here at Dark Fringe Radio. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it seriously is. I mean, the meme itself was a meme regarding the WOW signal, and I'm not sure if you know this or not, Jay, but the WOW signal was a signal that was that we recorded back, I think, in 1976 Don't quote me on the year, but it was in the 70s. But basically, it was an anomaly that we basically picked up from somewhere. We heard some type of radio signal that we got back, some type of response. Couldn't make it out. But basically, when the printout was coming out, as the scientist was listening to the signal, he actually wrote "wow," and that become dubbed the wow signal. So, exactly. So, Mr. James Pyles, what he did was actually he wrote a short story regarding this actual event, and it was a fictional. He wrote a fictional story regarding it, and I mean, just a great short story regarding aliens and us being able to assimilate with aliens and living a daily life with them. It's just cool. It's really cool. You can check that out into the Spring to Sci-Fi 2019 anthology series that's coming out right now, and then you can follow all of his work by going to his website, poweredbyrobots.com. So that's his website. You can check out all his work there, all his publications, everything that he's doing. So we're going to be getting into that conversation with Mr. James Pyles here in a second. So we hope you guys enjoy.
Boom.
This is William Lawrence with bentlights.com. You're listening to Dark Fringe Radio.
All right, Dark Fringe Radio listeners, our guest tonight is a published science fiction, fantasy, and technical writer. He has currently had several short stories published in anthologies, and his latest work, a story called The Recall, is featured in the Spring into Sci-Fi 2019 edition anthology series. This sci-fi fantasy story is set in 1977, where a strange radio signal from space gives the strongest indication humanity has ever had that there is intelligent life beyond the Earth, but has only lasted 72 seconds and has never been repeated until now. Please welcome our guest to Dark Fringe Radio, author of The Recall, Mr. James Pyles. James, thanks for coming on Dark Fringe Radio tonight. Thank you.
It's a privilege to be here, Will.
Well, thank you again. And listen, this has been something that you've been talking about doing for some time, and we talked about it. I think it was several months ago, maybe even last year. And, you were telling me about
actually,
this.
February.
February. Okay. So, yeah, it's been some months. And it's finally great to see this, all come into fruition. And you actually starting to get into the sci-fi side of writing. I know this is something that you have, are starting to get into little by little. But please, James, tell us a little bit about your past. Tell us what got you into writing and then what brought you into the sci-fi realm of the genre of writing.
Well, that goes back really a lot of decades until I was probably in junior high and was reading books by Edgar Rice Burroughs, John Carter, Mars stories, E. Doc Smith, Skylark of Space. And I've always loved science fiction and fantasy, and I've always wanted to write, but I never really felt I was competent. And so every so many years, so many decades, I would make the attempt of it. And then through really more the random chance, I ended up being a writer, but more of textbooks in technology, science, computer networking, that sort of thing. And only really this year have I been successful in publishing something that's really creative, that's really been the place where I've lived for most of my life, like science fiction and fantasy, where I really wanted to be. And so I'm totally thrilled that this is actually happening in my stage of life.
Yeah, no, this is awesome because it seems to that what you did the first books that you did, the technical books, that kind of gave you the probably the premise and maybe a little bit more of the feeling that you could actually do that and accomplish writing those books. You did what you had to do at that point. That was the first step, and now you're actually getting to write what you actually love, which yeah. No, it's just,
that's
go ahead.
It's perfect. I mean, I couldn't be happier.
Well, yeah, no, listen, that's great. And it obviously is going to show in your work here. And let's get into your work. It's actually been featured in this anthology series called Spring into Sci-Fi 2019. Of course, the 2019 edition of the book.
Right.
So every year they come up with these compilation of stories. So let's talk about yours. It's called The Recall. And I know we briefly touched on it via email. And, you mentioned that It's loosely based in the 1970s, and it's loosely based regarding the wow signal. Tell my listeners a little bit about the wow signal.
Well, the wow signal, and you know this better than I do, but on August 15th, 1977, Ohio State University's Bigger Radio Telescope received a radio signal that was undeniably intelligent. For 72 seconds, they received the researcher that was listening to it actually was so impressed he wrote "wow," which is what I call the wow signal, in the margins of the printout that he was looking at, and there was no real explanation for why this very, very, very strong, very organized signal, very intelligent signal was received by us, and it happened only once. And radio telescopes were pointed in the same direction for a number of months afterwards, but they didn't receive this particular signal again. And there's been a lot of attempts to explain it in, you know, what we would think of as rational and normal and non-alien sorts of sources, but none of them ever really stuck. I mean, nobody really knows to this day what the wow signal is and how it came about. And it's an incredible inspiration for somebody like me, because you have a mystery here. And with a mystery that has no resolution, and with a fiction writer with an imagination, you can do anything. And so I did.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's also because you actually lived through it. You know what I mean? You lived actually through it, and you were a witness.
Yeah, I mean, in 1977, yes, I was alive. In fact, that's the same year that Star Wars came out. And there's a whole separate story about that. But, yeah, the idea is that most people didn't know what was going on at the time. But when you discover it, and actually I discovered it through you and your website, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
And then it led into an incredibly different direction for me.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad I could help there. But listen, no, this is a great story that, if you could, tell me how this whole wow signal, this whole event in 1977, how it plays into this fictional sci-fi story that you've created here, please.
Okay, there's a slight side note, because when I learned about it, and when there was when Cloaked Press had an open submissions call regarding aliens, and they wanted a story, and I thought, well, how am I going to do this? There's a comic strip. I know that sounds odd, but I get inspiration.
I love comic
from
strips.
Sideways.
Yes.
Okay, there's a comic strip called Brewster Rocket, which is basically set in the future, and it's science fiction-y, and it's kind of dumb, and it's kind of cute. But back in February, they did a strip about how aliens were giving Earth bad reviews on Yelp for things like natural disasters, crime, pollution, climate change, and the Kardashians. And so I thought, what would that be like if it were real? What if aliens we have a lot of stories in science fiction where aliens want to take the Earth because of our resources. It's like Independence Day back in the 1990s. Yeah. The aliens wanted to take over Earth, and yada, yada, yada. But what if they tried to do that, and they realized we'd already screwed the place up? And that's what I based my entire story on, the idea that aliens have been among us for decades and decades and decades. And slowly, they've been waiting for us to kill ourselves off, because that's what humans do. Right. But what if we took the Earth with us, and they couldn't use the darn thing anymore? And then that's the essential premise of my story. I mean, it has a lot of other kind of touch points from the 1960s television show The Invaders, for example, or there's an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation that talks about the same sort of thing. But it all comes down to, what if we thwart aliens because we totally screwed the place up?
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. I mean, and it's kind of like almost like a ooh gotcha kind of thing, because if they're like waiting kind of to take us over, and then they kind of realize, oh shit, this place is this place is going down too at the same time, and we're in it. What are we gonna do here? You know?
Yeah,
that's great.
Exactly. And I mean, I don't want to give the entire story away, obviously, but there's a lot that goes on there with how intelligent life isn't necessarily that self-preserving. I'm sure you've watched the movie The Matrix. The whole idea that human beings are unique in the sense that we don't have a balance with our environment. We basically consume it like a virus.
Yep.
And not only do we end up dooming ourselves, but we end up thwarting, invading aliens at the same time.
Yeah, it reminds me of an old Twilight Zone episode where
Really?
Where man have just used up every resource on Earth possible, and we're just left with nothing, and that's what we do. But it's so interesting that you've put that together, and you have the short story. You've written a couple of other ones, and I know you're coming up with a novel you're putting together pretty soon. Is that correct?
That's correct. How soon it actually reaches fruition is somewhat questionable. It's interesting because the concept itself, I've created a universe that I really can't let go of. And so several of my other short stories are connected to the novel's universe at different points in time. One of them has recently been accepted for publication, but because it's not being marketed yet, I can't really speak to it. But it's an intermix of basically steampunk and diesel punk, the transition between one and the other, and I'm really excited about the concept because it enables me to tell a lot of different stories about different people, but in the same plane of existence. And a lot of my favorite authors have done really the same thing, where you create your own world and then you populate it across decades of time, and then you tell these very interesting stories about people based on this very creative and this very different and this very alternate way that the world could work out.
Right. Yes. Yeah. No, that's so interesting, especially when you get that dynamic of different people, of that nature. So that's wonderful. I think that's really great. James, if you could tell me a little bit about your website. I actually was on it a little while, looking at some of the different publications that you've written for, and you also have a section with you do book and film reviews. Tell us a little bit more about your website.
Well, my website, I compartmentalize my life. I actually have 3 active blogs. Powered by Robots is my creative, innovative, spreading out my imagination blog. And I created it as an experiment. A year ago, I really started to write fiction type work, science fiction, fantasy, aside of horror. But I didn't know how it was going to turn out. And the way my imagination works is that in order for me to process information, I actually have to write. Because nothing else really makes sense. And, if people are talking, I can't really just listen to them and absorb information. If I take notes, it makes more sense. And so that's really what blogging is all about. So Powered by Robots is basically my imagination expressing itself and going in different directions. I started doing a lot of, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but there are a lot of online writing challenges, things like, here's the theme, use 150 words to write a complete story about it, or here's a picture, use 500 words to write a complete story about it. So it's a way of saying 2 things. One is, okay, how can I take someone else's idea, some premise or whatever, and create something new and different about it, and how can I limit it into a certain number of words? Most of these short stories that I write for various publishers have certain limitations on thematic limitations, word count limitations, and so it invites a level of discipline that mixes in with the level of creativity that you can't just, writing isn't just about spawning ideas. First drafts of anything are horrible. They're sketches. So you really need to make imagination with a sense of really adulthood, for lack of a better term.
I love it. I think it's a great
in order to create something that people will enjoy, because if you think about anything that you've read that's creative and imaginative that you've enjoyed, it's also been organized. Because if it wasn't, it would be horrible. I mean, it would be a disaster. It would be like, reading somebody's grocery list, for example. Okay, there's information there, but it's boring.
Right.
And I've walked out of movie theaters and I've put down novels exactly for that reason. Because, okay, you're smart, I get it, but you can't tell an interesting story. And so in order to do that, you have to not only be able to feel and be creative, but you have to think. You have to be organized. And that's the hardest part about being an author of something creative. I've written textbooks about computer networking, and of course, that requires a lot of discipline, a lot of information, but it's not particularly interesting. I mean, it is for if you're trying to learn that sort of stuff, but I wouldn't read that,
And there's a lot of structure.
O'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and there's a lot of structure to a text like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's where the
Right.
beginning and
So,
where the end is going to be in a book like that.
Right. And I've got two grandchildren, a 10-year-old grandson and a 4-year-old granddaughter. She turns 4 tomorrow. And for the past, since my grandson was 5, we have told each other stories about, we create a situation, create a set of characters and a circumstance, and we play it out. The first story that I've written that was published was based on a story I wrote for him 4 years ago.
That's
about
awesome.
a dragon and how the dragon comes to live with a family. And I couldn't ask for a better inspiration for a fantasy or a fiction than my grandchildren, because they're extremely inspirational. And even more, I think that's really the trigger for me. I've been around for decades and decades and decades, and I've wanted to write and wanted to write and wanted to write, and it never worked until they were alive.
So they were the trigger, I guess, or the trigger point that got you to that.
They were, especially my grandson Landon. He's 10 now. He has an imagination like mine, and we kind of meet at that intersectional point where I can be young enough to be kind of fanciful, but I'm adult enough to be able to contain it in kind of a bucket that makes stuff. In fact, we actually are writing a novel together. It's going to take years because, again, he's 10 and I'm not. And he gives me the concept. Yeah, I know. He gives me the concepts, and I turn it into cohesive English. But he's actually got a pretty good idea. I think it would make a very young adult novel eventually. It's something that we can do together that it really kind of skips over a generation. His mom and his dad are different human beings, but he and I are very much alike, and I think we kind of liberate each other.
That's funny how that happens, though, huh? It's interesting.
It is,
and it's almost like watching. It's like watching a younger version of yourself in a way. It's just like, it's weird. It's like watching a younger version of yourself in a way. It's very weird.
In a way, because when I was his age, I used to do a lot of drawing. I was not very good at it, right. But I would take the things in my world, comic books, television stuff, and I would draw stories out. And he sort of does the same thing, but he does it more with words than he does with pictures. And, looking back in time and looking at him, we really are kind of doing the same thing. We're processing the world around us through our imagination in an attempt to try to make some sort of sense of it and be able to kind of control it and impose our personalities, our imaginations on it.
Yeah,
and I think that's really what writing is. That's really what creativity is.
I couldn't agree more. No, that's wonderful, and it's a beautiful thing that you're doing a project like that with your grandson, and I couldn't applaud you more for doing something like that. Also, on their site you do a lot of book and film reviews, which I love. They're short blurbs that you give for these movies, and I think they're great. I think everybody should check that out. Again, everybody can check that out at his website. It's called poweredbyrobots.com, and you can check out where all his publications are, the book and film reviews, about him, everything you need to know about Mr. James Pyles. And James, so do you have anything else you're going to come out with besides the novel I know you're working on? Do you have any other short stories you have cooking on the stove?
Like I said, that the last few that have been accepted for publication that haven't been marketed yet, so I can't actually talk about them. I would love to talk about them, and I certainly will publish that when I am allowed to. But beyond that, it's just the next project. It's just the next challenge that's somebody presents me, says, "Can you do this?" And I says, "Go, let me give it a shot." Actually, one of the next ones is from an independent publisher. They say, "Okay, write a novella in 30 days." Well, I'm a plotter and I'm a schemer. I like to think a lot. I like to kind of ruminate.
Right.
I organize, but that's super time consuming.
That is
the stuff, and it is. It really is. But somebody says, "Okay, how quick can you be? How quick and creative can you be in this amount of time? Can you write 30,000 words in 30 days?" Actually, one of my books, a more technically organized book, I had my agent call me up one time. This was a few years ago, and says, "Okay, can you write 13 chapters in 30 days?" And I said, "How much do you want to pay me?" And we settled on a price, and I didn't have a life for the next month.
Oh, my gosh.
But I saved the project because the original project manager totally bailed. But I enjoy that sort of thing. I mean, and there's part of me that hates it because I love being able to give, when you write a novel, there really is no time constraint. When you write a technical book, you have to write it in 90 days because technology goes obsolete so quickly. And when you're writing a fixed book, it's not like a website they can change. I mean, it's there forever. So you have to be fast.
Yeah,
and
crazy.
I want to be fast and creative.
Yeah, I couldn't. I'm creative, but I'm not fast. I can tell you that. It's just if they told me to do that, I would just crack. I would just buckle at that point. I was just like, no way. But I'd have to give you a call and say, "Hey, James, what am I going to do here?" But no, that's awesome. Listen, I applaud you. Listen, I hope you do well with this short story. If there's anything else that you come up with in the future, please let me know, and we'll get you on here again, and we'll promote anything that you have going on. Again, please tell everybody where they can find all your stuff. What site?
Okay, www.robots.com. That's my creative site, and pretty much what you see is what you get. That's who I am. Appreciate the opportunity to be interviewed by you, and thank you very much.
No, awesome. Listen, James, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on. I can see that you're going to have a bright future when it comes to this. I push you and urge you to do more and more and more. I love your Twitter stuff. it's phenomenal. I just
you're unique in that sense.
Oh yeah, I sit there and I just grin. I grin like a Cheshire cat, and I just sit there and I just. I love it. But yeah, you can check all of Jim's stuff at poweredbyrobots.com. Again, that's poweredbyrobots.com. And then, of course, his book, his short story, The Recall, you can find that in the newest publication of the Sci-Fi annual 2019. Hold on, what was the name of that again? That was the...
Spring into Sci-Fi,
there we go.
2019 edition.
Spring into Sci-Fi 2019 edition anthology series. So please check that out. Again, James, you're a wonderful guest. We'd love to have you back on in the future. And thanks again for coming on Dark Fringe Radio.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, sir.
All right, James. You have a great night. Thank you so much.
And thanks, guys, for listening to that interview with Mr. James Pyles, man. Listen, it was a great interview, and I appreciate James for coming on the podcast. Again, you can follow all of his work at poweredbyrobots.com. Make sure you go there, check out his work, and please check out that book, Spring into Sci-Fi 2019 anthology series, and check out his story, The Recall. And cool. Thank you for coming on the podcast, James, and spreading that. And anything else that you have coming out in the future, you are a welcome guest to come on anytime. So anytime. So Jay, that brings us to our second to last segment of the night, or the last segment of the night, which is what to watch. And
the what to watch. We got a lot of them. So I couldn't whittle it down. I had 3 of them I had to go with, so you guys are just going to get a few extra bonuses.
There
What's up, friends?
That's extra content for us people. So listen, Jay, what do you have this week for what to watch? Tell us.
Well, the first one has got to be Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. A classically awful 80s movie featuring one Keanu Reeves before anybody knew that Keanu Reeves was going to be Keanu Reeves.
Before he was the badass of John Wick that he is now.
Or Neo. Or the guy from Point Break. People forget him there, too.
Or Constantine.
Yeah, Constantine.
He was a badass in Constantine.
He was a badass. He's a fantastic actor, fantastic fighter. So recently, they just signed on to do a Bill and Ted's 3. With Keanu, with the whole the whole crew now, all these years later. So it'll be interesting to see what they've done with the whole dynamic. So my first two what to watches are Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which came out in '89, and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which for my preferences, I actually like that one a little bit better.
Really? So you actually like the sequel better than the original? That's usually.
I like the sequel better than the original. I like the whole unconfident Grim Reaper portion. I like the fact that the smartest genius in the universe wasn't a human. The whole robot fighting scene, and then of course the end you get Kisses. God made rock and roll for you.
Yeah, listen,
I mean,
it's a great film. I mean, I'm not a great film as far as great, like, films that
oh,
are
it's awful.
classic, but it's a special place in our heart, and it's a really
It's slightly niche.
it is slightly niche, but it's a great fucking movie.
It's fantastic. Came out in '91, so they just signed on to do a third one of those. So those are my first two, and then my last one, I just went to go see the new Spider-Man, Far From Home.
Yes.
Oh, unbelievable. Incredible movie. I really like how they portrayed the whole exposing of who's going to be the bad guy. So if you haven't seen it, I'm not spoiling it. Don't get mad at me. But the whole storyline of it, it's fantastic.
Yeah, they've had enough time to watch it. But yeah, no, listen, I've heard nothing but great reviews regarding that Spider-Man sequel. And from what I hear, it sets up all of Phase 4 as well. Is that right, Jay?
That is correct. There's 2 after trailers, so you have to stay all the way through 2, and you'll start to pick up where they're going next.
It's interesting to me that they are actually considering doing a Doctor, or they're actually not considering, they're actually doing it. This not prequel, but sequel to Doctor Strange, and it's supposed to be actually more of a horror movie. Believe it or not, did you hear about that, Jay?
I did hear about that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, there's a lot of rumors going around about the Dark Avengers, maybe actually making an appearance, which, if you guys don't know, is basically the Avengers, but like evil versions
of.
Right. So, it's going to be interesting to see if they actually pull that off, and maybe they're starting to go through this whole dark phase, starting with Doctor Strange, and it being more of a horror thriller. Versus more than an action. So
they're talking about, because the first few phases were understanding that there were special people, then the Earth being in trouble with and having to be saved by those special people. Phase 3 was starting to understand that there was more than just our world. Phase 4 was now you've got the whole galactic. So it only kind of makes sense that now they're going to pull it back and get some more mythological style. They're going to probably talk a little bit more about, the Ghost Rider and Blackheart and all the more kind of supernatural portions aside from just, superheroes. But it's also interesting because the MCU has just enveloped the whole Fox X-Men property. So who knows if the X-Men or certain members of mutants, the whole terminology of mutant hasn't been spoken about yet. So it could be interesting to see how it progresses to that.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome because, they're going to be able to introduce the X-Men. And, I don't know if you heard this or not, but during the San Diego Comic-Con, Kevin Feige came out and said that, the next big project that he's going to be doing is another Fantastic Four film as well. So, Fantastic Four has been built up and ramped up a couple times already.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's
There was only
work.
one. There was only one that even remotely worked. That first Fantastic Four that had Jessica Alba as the Invisible Girl. But let's be real, man. I don't know why. I love the Fantastic Four so much. I don't know why it doesn't seem to transition. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not that smart, but it just doesn't seem to transition on the big screen.
No, it
so
doesn't.
I don't know, man. I also would like to see. There was a version of the Fantastic Four, and they could do it.
Which version is that? What are you talking about?
There's a version where all the Fantastic Four, I believe, had been phased off Earth by Doctor Doom. So they got together the Grey Hulk.
Okay.
Spider-Man,
Yeah.
Ghost Rider,
Yeah.
and Wolverine.
I mean, right there. That's it. I mean, what else do you freaking need? You got the supernatural side with the Ghost Rider. You got the fucking action, nonstop, fucking claw cutting action with
the
Wolverine.
Hulk.
Well, with Wolverine. Then you got fucking the Hulk, who's just a fucking. He just destroys everything in his path. You know what I mean? What else?
And then you get the comic relief from Spider-Man.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to hit all those corners in a comic book, and it certainly does that. I mean,
you're welcome, Marvel. I just figured out the problem.
You heard it from Jay.
I will expect a cut.
There you go.
You can send it directly to my house. Have your people call my.
Jay says he wants a cut. Kevin Feige, you heard that? So that's the way to fucking book this, guys. But listen, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, Phase 4 is going to be awesome. They're implementing all these different things into it, and only time will tell. But Marvel's done a great job so far of giving us these movies, and we do appreciate it, of course. So that's again for what to watch this week. Anything else, Jay, for what to watch?
No, that's it for me, man. Just those three: Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Their Bogus Journey, and then Spider-Man. You have to see it while it's still in the theaters.
Absolutely. Well, listen, that brings us to the outro, Jay. I just wanted to remind everybody where they can listen to the podcast. Go to darkfringeradio.wordpress.com. If you want to send us any kind of correspondence or any kind of mailbag questions, you can send that to us at thedarkfringe@gmail.com. Of course, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all there. Just look up Dark Fringe Radio. Please give us a 5-star rating and a comment when you go on to whatever platform it is that you listen to our podcast. So we do appreciate it when you guys do that. Of course, Jay, that's how we kind of get paid back for doing the podcast and giving you guys some free entertainment on a weekly basis. So make sure you go ahead and do that and subscribe and do all that stuff. So anything else for the outro, Jay?
That's it. Just keep the great comment coming, the great content coming, giving us ideas, keep feeding this monster, tell everybody, let it grow so we can all be a much more woke society and be more open to one another.
Absolutely. Listen, that's the most important thing. And another thing I wanted to mention, Jay, as well, because we're starting to see a little bit more of this as well. If you guys are music artists, if you guys have a band, or you guys do any kind of music, you can submit that to us here at thedarkfringe@gmail.com. We'll play your music here. We'll even critique it if you'd like. But what we'll do is we'll play your music on either the intro or the outro, and we'll try to push any kind of artist out there that has some decent music. So we wanted to go ahead and put that out there for you guys. We're starting to see a lot more of that coming in. So we're going to be implementing that into our podcast. So again, that's it for the outro, Jay. And I wanted to thank everybody for tuning into the podcast. I'm Will Martinez, and of course for Jay Galosi, thank you for joining in on Dark Fringe Radio, and we'll see you next week.
Good night, guys.
How anything would change.
Thank you for listening to Dark Fringe Radio, recorded in the Mephistopheles Studios. Any correspondence can be sent to thedarkfringe@gmail.com. Thank you again for listening.
I haven't seen how anything could change. I am closer, but far away. A distraction doesn't last, just adds more to the past. All I have is you. 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 I resist as it gets away. When I'm there, nothing more I can say. A distraction doesn't last, just adds more to the past. All I have is you. All I have is you. All I have is you. All I have is you.
Granny,
What?
what the hell are you doing?
I'm packing. I got my pussy wash. I got my paper towels.
What are you packing for?
I am going to Area 61.
For what?
To break in. All my friends are doing it. I was up all fucking night studying how I could break in that motherfucker.
You don't have no friends.
Fuck you. So,
how are you gonna break in?
I'm going in disguise.
Disguised as what?
I even studied how to speak their language. I'm going.
I'm not letting you leave. You're not going nowhere.
The hell I ain't. You watch me, motherfucker. Get out of my fucking way.
Granny, no!
Let go of the damn door, asshole! Turn it loose! Get out of the way!
Only on Dark Fringe Radio.